Rick, welcome.
Kory, thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
Well, listen, totally stoked to share with you.
All right, so Rick, when I think about how I would describe you, three words come to mind:
All right.
hustle, humor, and heart. And what is cool about that, particularly hustle and the humor, those are two opposite descriptions. You think about someone who hustles, they're intense, they're serious, they're focused. Then you think about someone with humor, they're lighthearted, relaxed. They're opposites, but you think the magic of Rick West is you do both. And I'm curious, where do you think that comes from?
Man, I knew we weren't planning the conversation, but that was a really good start. So I'm Triple H. I love that. I think I could use that. I guess I've just always, I love humor. I love making people laugh. I like making people feel good no matter what I'm doing. That being said, I guess I'm kind of like a calculated goofball, right? I think that people, when they walk into a room and they've got something of value, they want to get off their chest. They want to get people engaged. So often they just go straight for the kill. They just go straight for the, hey, you should do this. Whereas if you engage people and you make them have a level of comfortability, they're always going to want to hear more, right? You don't want people ever looking at their phone and saying, oh, crap, it's Rick, Whereas I joke with people all the time with what we do for a business. I'm like, when I call, the only request I have is that you answer because I got something for you. And I'm confident that the fact that I've engaged people in a very real and authentic way, which includes my humor, I think that's made a difference throughout the years.
We'll get into CGS, but taking a step back, I think a lot of people know you for where you're at today. Most people don't know where you came from. And so I think, natural segue, if you take hustle, humor, and heart, and you think about how do I make a career out of that? Tell me about selling hot tubs and tanning beds.
Oh man, come on, bro. That's wow, you did some due diligence. I didn't know you were able to achieve due diligence, Kory. I'm very impressed with your skills. Yeah. I never knew I was in sales, a salesperson. I went to school for something completely different. Grew up in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. Me and Joe Namath, only two people ever to escape the town. And, grew up and went to a small liberal arts college, Westminster College, and actually had a major that had nothing to do with business whatsoever. And most people who know me say, yeah, that makes sense. That guy doesn't know business. But the reality is, I got into some businesses and I'll just tell you what it was. I got involved in a Curves for Women franchise. Now they're falling off the charts everywhere, right? You want to get some old used real estate, find an old Curves for Women, God bless them. But anyway, I got involved in a couple of franchises and I realized I'm like, hold up, you're getting all these women coming in the door and all you're doing is just lame equipment. You got other things you could be selling. They're there, right? And so then I thought, okay, I'm going to put a tanning bed in this place. And I called up the head of Curves, guy's named Gary something, zillionaire. And he called me from his island and he's like, no, you can't do that. We're sticking with our business model. I'm like, look, bro, the business model isn't making any sense. Like that should be your model, that these women are coming in and they could do multiple things to be part of that process of being with other women. I love the concept. And so he told me no, said he'd sue me. And I didn't have any money back then. So I was definitely going to avoid that. So what I did was I rented the place next door and I put in this thing called a hydro massage bed. It's one of those beds you lay on, it like massages you from underneath with water. Women loved it, right? So I bought a second one and then I put these things in. Next thing you know, this dude that owned this hydro massage company calls me up. He's like, hey, you're doing really well with these things, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'd like you to start selling them. I'm like, I'm not in sales. Like, I don't know how to sell anything. He's like, nah, come on down. Like, we want, we're good. And he's like, I'll fly you down here to Delray, Florida. You come down. All right, whatever. You're going to pay for an airplane ticket. I'll show up. I get on the airplane, go down, and here it's a biz op. And for those of you who aren't familiar with biz ops, basically, they're to try to get you to buy a few things and then give you a distributorship so that they're selling a bunch of units to a bunch of people selling 3 or 4 units so that you can then own a territory. I didn't know anything about sales. I'm like, I don't know about your territories or anything, but look, I need to buy them for this much money, and then I'm going to sell them for that much money if you're going to have me do this. They're like, okay. They never intended anyone to be successful at this. They literally thought they were going to find like 200 people and sell them all 3 units, and they sell 600 units. That was their business idea. Dude, I sold like 50 of them in like 8 months for like 17 grand pop. And it's just because I believed in it. Right. And what I learned in that moment was if I believe in something, I can push it. because I can make people understand the value of something. Next thing you know, you had to bring up the tanning beds. So I'm selling the crap out of these things. I become truly the only distributor of this product going. And then these people from this other tanning company, ETS was their name. I think they're out of Indy. They called me up. They're like, look, bro, you got to sell some tanning beds. I'm like, I'm tan. I don't even know what you're talking about. They're like, listen, man, you got to come sell these tanning beds. I'm like, look, I don't sell, I barely sell these things. It's only because I believe in. They're like, we're going to fly you out to Vegas. We have a conference. We want you to be there. We're going to explain it to you. I'm like, what the hell? What, you're going to buy the airplane ticket? So basically, Kory, I'm available for a free airplane ticket, I guess, for anybody. So got on the plane and get out there. They're like, look, you're selling these hydro massage machines, right? I'm like, yeah. Like, if you can sell that, you can sell anything. Like, if you can sell that, a tanning bed's easy. I'm like, all right, what the hell? I'll do it. So then I put a few tanning beds in that place next to Curves, took off like crazy, right? I found out that the women who went to Curves wanted to relax and tan as well. Money in the bank. So all of a sudden they say, hey, would you distribute for us? Yes, I'll distribute for us. Next thing I know, I started a company and we sold the heck out of tanning beds and hydro massages. Thing came to thing, and then I saw changes coming. I saw regulation coming for tanning that hadn't existed before. And I'm like, man, if this really is somewhat dangerous, I don't think I really want the old Rick West name tied to it. So I slowly faded away from that and I got involved in selling some energy efficiency equipment. And I was really good at it. And because I believed in it. Again, if I believe in something, I can move it. And so I really believed in this energy efficient equipment. I moved the heck out of it. But the company I was working for, it long story short, it didn't work out, right? I moved more of a product than anyone else in the country was moving somehow. And so I created these amazing hotel relationships because ozone laundry was the piece of equipment. And it allows you to wash in cold water instead of hot water using less water and less electricity. So I all of a sudden saw, wow, there's a return on investment on these things. Sold the hell out of them. But then I got out of it because of some other stuff. And next thing you know, I'm just kind of floating around, just floating. And then people knew about my relationships in hospitality. I had a buddy, Kerry Ranson, who's now at Reigns, and he's now president. Back when I knew him, he wasn't that powerful. I think he's powerful now. I'm not sure. You'll have to ask him. But I had all these high level folks that I had become friends with that I laugh with, back to your original statement. And what we did was we're like, hey, I still have these relationships. So people would approach me.
Can you speak a little more about how hospitality became a thing? From the tanning beds to the curve to the ozone. When did hospitality come in your life? Because it's obviously such a through line to what became your career.
Great question, brother. The quick of it is when I saw this technology, I saw that that was the fit. I saw that hotels were the fit. So I just started calling on hotels, like literally dialing for dollars. Hey, I got this technology. And then I realized pretty quickly that I could get good enough relationships with the local folks that I quickly ascended in being able to talk to more C-level type folks. And the tech made sense. And so, I created those relationships and we started doing that. But then I decided that that company I was with was not the right fit. And so I'm just out there kind of floating around. And these other folks are like, hey, you still know all these people in hospitality. And I get on this call with this company that wanted to do smart thermostats, which, by the way, CGS does more smart thermostats than anybody now. But back then, they had those ones that you put the cards in.
Mm.
There was an upstart company that got a hold of me somehow. And back then, before Teams, there was a thing called Uvu. Uvu was like Zoom before Zoom. And I'm on this thing and they're saying, hey, look, man, like, can you move these? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, tell me what they are. I'm like, nah, that doesn't work. And they asked why it didn't work. And I told them why it didn't work. And they weren't real happy. But they're like, oh, well, we're in with Best Western and we know this person. I'm like, you're not in with Best Western. Anyway, on this Brady Bunch thing we had going on this screen, there was this one kid and this kid was listening. I could tell the kid was listening. And we got off the phone and the kid called me. And the kid's name was Kevin Snyder. He had invested in this company that sucked. He said, man, dude, you were harsh. I'm like, dude, I was honest. He said, I said, I'm sorry you invested in this, but you're not getting your money back because that ain't gonna work. And he's like, wow, what a bummer. And he talked to me and we talked to each other and we got to become friends. And he said, I need to build something around you because your sales ability, but I want to build the thing around you. I know business. And so we took a loan for 25 grand and started CGS with me working full time and him working a quarter time working for a corporate job. So that's it.
And Kevin Snyder's your partner today at CGS. that kid on the call.
Yeah, listen, he keeps showing up. He's my business partner. 50/50.
Unbelievable. What year was that when you guys had that call?
I think 2014. I think.
Okay. You and Kevin have this idea. What was the original thing you were selling to hotels? You have your relationships. Kevin sees the value, in you as a salesman. You see the value in him from the business side. You have the hotel relationships, but I don't think you have what you have today. What what was the early days of, CGS 1.0? What are you selling to hotels?
Bro, I swear to God, you're like a pro at this. That's fantastic. I was not anticipating that question, but whatever. Like, it literally was a matter of like whatever. And best story about that. I can't believe I'm giving credit to Kerry Ranson twice on one thing. But old Kerry was always loyal. He'll be on the Mount Rushmore of CGS someday. Like he'll be on that Mount Rushmore of the people with whom we did business that stuck with us and was loyal and helped get us here. And Kerry called up all the time. Hey, what do you think about this? Blah blah blah. And he said one time he's like, Hey man, I'm in a bind. I need 200 mattresses. Can you help me find these 200 mattresses? I'm like, absolutely, no problem at all. I get off the phone, hang up, look at my wife, Kristen, and I'm like, where the F am I going to find 200 mattresses? I didn't know anything about mattresses. We still don't sell mattresses to this day, Kory. I mean, but I found 200 mattresses made about $50 a piece. God bless us. We always found a way. I joke now, because we do, I think one of our mutual connections is Ferguson, right? And so back in the day, anytime I found out about something, I would just try to find where I could find it. So I remember I was talking to a client who needed shower heads. I didn't know anything about shower heads. Crap. What am I doing about that? So I found out what kind he had. He had Speakman. I call up Speakman. They're like, you got to work through another company. They put me with Ferguson. I end up dealing with Ferguson, and millions and millions and millions of dollars later, we're still dealing with Ferguson on certain things. And so, Kory, the answer is that's a long answer to say we just sold whatever we had to survive until we figured things out.
I want to kind of weave through your story here.
Yeah.
One thing, Rick, on more of a personal side, as we've come to know each other over the last 6 years or so, I would describe you as competitive. I think that's obvious. But fitness, I'm not trying to tie this back to your curves story. And truthfully, I don't even know what curves is. That was well before my time.
Ouch.
Fitness, Rick, I know it's a big part of your life. It's something that's sort of, you know, glossed over or sort of an ancillary thing. But, I think you and I sort of have that in common. What is fitness, being in shape? How's that helped you in your life?
Well, the shape I'm in right now is round. So I mean, I got that going for me. But, you know, it's funny you say that because I've got that Matthew Perry Oprah thing, like where I could be like 235 one day and like a buck 96 the next. I gain and lose weight faster than any human that's not on cocaine on the planet. So fitness is big for me more so because of the mindset. I'm that dude that grinds. You're right. Like when you said that as far as hustle, I'm a hustler and I put in 16, 18 hours a day is what I do. It's my norm. And in doing so, and you're always strategizing and you're always working deals and you're always working vendors. If you don't have some kind of physical exertion, like if you don't have that fitness piece, dude, you'll lose your damn mind, is what I learned. And the days people can tell the days where I've worked out and where I haven't, not because I'm sweating or wearing a cutoff hoodie, because I do that all the time, but they can tell just because my attitude, and it makes all the difference in the world. So I don't, what about you? Is that why you work out? You work out more for the, hey, I want to look good, I'm still young thing? Because I'm too old for that. Or do you work out more for the mentality piece?
99% mental. And the same way, I mean, my wife, Blair, like, I'm just miserable on the days, if I go a day or two and I haven't worked out or moved or done something. The people that get out of bed and like sit on a computer and work all day, like you got to have that release. And honestly, I think you would agree with this on the mental side. Want to keep you sharp, but two, it's when you do your best thinking is when you're moving, when you're not sitting at a desk being like, I got to solve this problem. How am I going to solve this problem? It comes to you when you're walking, when you're working out, when you're on the treadmill,
Yep.
when you're not even thinking about it is when that I know what to do idea comes to you. And I think we have that in common.
1,000,000%. And I'm glad you're doing that at your age because trust me, it'll pay off later. Now, trust me, my knees, I was getting dressed to work out the other day. I got a little gym in the house now. And Taylor, our youngest, she was like watching me get ready. And I'm putting on like this knee wrap and two knee wraps over here and my elbow, and I got my ankle. And she's like, "What are you doing? This is ridiculous." I'm like, "I'm getting ready for roller derby, you jerk." No, I'm old, right? The rebound isn't there like it was. So trust me, Kory, enjoy it now, bro. But
Yeah,
the good news is this: when I do die, I will bequeath you all of my ankle wraps, knee wraps, and elbow wraps.
perfect. We'll get back into the origin story of CGS and, correct me if I'm wrong, but even when you and I met back, in 2020, from my perspective, the business was really, it was you and Kevin, but the rest of the team was what I would say friends and family. Would
It
that be
was.
fair to say?
We started our business model was hiring family members who were too young to make enough money and old people who were retired and didn't need to make any money. That was our business model. And it was all we could afford. Again, we've never had that big investor. It's been Kevin and I with that original loan and putting everything back into the business. So yeah, and for the longest time, Kevin kept his full-time job. So bringing on, family members and old retired folks, I mean, it worked. We had some winners. Like we found programs and we found products that were winners, and we just needed help getting it out there, right? So at the end of the day, it worked for us. I'm not saying it should work for every new company. We're kind of very different than a lot of the companies that are out there that have had our rapid growth, because a lot of them, to be completely honest, are funded. You have an investor who sees somebody with a great idea, drop $10 million on. Go make this work. This makes sense to me. We did it the opposite. We white knuckle this thing. And so I'm proud to say that it went from me working full time and Kevin working as much as he could. And then I was scared to death when Kevin was going to quit. He came to me and says, "I'm going to quit," which number one is what terrified his wife, because, he had a full time job. He had a freaking kid on the way. They just bought a new house, and he decides he's going to quit his job to do this with me. And she's like, "If you lost your damn mind," basically. And he's like, "I think we got this." And I told him we did have it, but I was terrified because I looked at Kristen. I'm like, "How the hell am I going to earn enough money to pay him too? Like I'm barely paying me, and now we got to do this." But what I saw, Kory, is when you bring on people who are smart and able, just able, and have great integrity. Our business really even took off more when Kevin came on board. And I'm proud to say, from me and Kevin and friends and family and old retirees, working back around 2018, 2019, 4 or 5 folks, 6 folks, we now have 40 employees. And that doesn't include the crews that we have out on the streets. And I truly believe that's from doing it the right way, from being frugal in the beginning, because we had to, but also in bringing in good folks. But yeah, friends and family, that's how we started, bro.
Well, it's amazing about you, Rick. And there's a saying I heard recently: reasonable people don't live unreasonable lives. And I don't mean unreasonable in a bad sense. Reasonable would just be average, boring, you know, vanilla, and you're the opposite in that and in every way.
Recommend I would not recommend what I do for a living to anyone. Like if I really cared about someone, I would tell them not to do what I do, because being an entrepreneur and then becoming a leader in an industry, it is a lot of pressure. But it's reserved for those folks that decide that they can't be quenched, right?
Exactly.
There's a Sun Tzu thing I have up in my office. I read it. Victory is reserved for those who are willing to pay its price. And so if you want the big wins, you got to be willing to put in the effort. My dad was a steel worker. I grew up in a one bathroom house with 2 sisters and 2 parents. I slept on an open up couch, right? Because there were only 2 bedrooms and my sisters obviously got those. And I learned early that it wasn't going to be handed. You had to go out and earn it and work for it. And my dad went out every day and he went to the steel mill and he worked, and there were no excuses. And so when you talk about hustle, I just call hustle living.
Someone who comes from that sort of background to have the appetite or the audacity to take the risk, I completely agree with you. Most people should not do it. You
Right.
know, you're the exception of the rule that should absolutely do it. It's amazing to have a seat on the sidelines to watch your growth. And I've loved it. But I mean, talk about pressure, Rick. It's not just you and Kevin. You brought your whole family on board.
Yeah.
You know, you work with your wife like I do. You work with your kids. We're both in family businesses, but that is a lot of pressure on your shoulders. And as much as you use the humor to sort of steady the conversation, I know that there's times where, you know, you, Rick West, alone with your thoughts, you know, maybe at the gym, there's times, man, it's like not only am I supporting my family, but I have 40 employees and they have families and you've hired families of families, your wife is in, your kids are in. I mean, that's you know, that's some heavy weight, man.
Listen, I take it with the utmost respect every day. Like, and this sounds like a commercial, and it's not. I'm not BSing here. This is legit. I get up every morning, know that I am greatly responsible for the lives of a lot of folks and their earnings for their families. So, when Zach Simpson, my VP of sales, when his son wants to go to college, I take that seriously, right? Because I need to put Zach into situations. I always said as a parent, I would run a business like I was a parent in some ways and not do all the screw ups I did as a parent. The one thing that I did as a parent, and Kory, this is that old guy advice I give you every once in a while, so you're welcome. Always put your kids or your employees in places to succeed. Always set them up to win. But then the win's on them. Like at the end of the day, like the win is on them, but always do your best as a leader to empower them to be able to win. And I've never been let down with that. And Zach's son's going to go to college where he wants to go because Zach works his ass off and deserves it. But yet at the same time, I feel like I've done a pretty good job helping Zach. So I don't need to wear the cape. I don't need the accolades. I just want my team to win.
Absolutely. A lot of people think from the outside that aren't in the position that you and I are in, Rick, that must be so nice to be the boss. You know, you have all these people that work for you. I mean, it's like, man, if you could trade shoes with me for one day and feel the pressure, and I know exactly what you feel. You know, we have similar sized companies, and I wake up every day thinking, it's not just my family who, like you, is in the business, you know, my in laws, my wife, but it's, you know, 20 something employees and their families that are relying on us to provide. You know, it's not talked about. I think it's glamorized and it's sexy to be the boss, but it's, you know,
I said to Kristen the other day, Kristen and Julie, my sister, who's our head of internal operations. I said to him, I'm like, all this time in business, and we finally get to be a good sized company and really rocking it out. And I'm chief or whatever I am over here, and all I want to do when I grow up is be a sales guy. Like the idea of eventually getting our company to the point where I'm just calling people up, sharing value, and rolling. Man, that sounds so damn good.
I think that's a great segue to the back half of this conversation, Rick, about sort of where CGS has grown and where you are today. That's a great jumping off point. You're so used to being the hustler and the doer and the rainmaker. And now you're in this position where, you know, Kevin's your partner. You have to manage and lead and develop these people. Has that been hard for you to, I don't know if delegate is the right word, but let them grow, let them make the mistakes, you know, be a coach, a player coach instead of CGS was you and Kevin selling mattresses before it is what it is today, you know, and you have that I'm going to sell you hot tubs and, you know, build the relationships. I mean, I don't think you should ever lose that. I think it's amazing, right? But when you're running 40 employees now,
Yeah,
you know,
40.
that's a different level, you know, of responsibility that both need a captain or a leader or chief, as you called yourself. You know,
Yeah.
one of the things I think about is Andrew Pragle, our mutual friends. Andrew was my lighting supplier, who I think you connected me with initially, well before he ended up working for you. Now we buy lighting from you through, still with Andrew, but with as an employee of yours now. You hire someone like that who comes from more of a corporate America background, and you've hired multiple people like that. It's a different game now. I mean, do you want to speak to how your leadership style has evolved or
It's hard, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, like, because I just want to go do. I'm the guy that picks up the ball and runs as fast and hard as I can until I score. And so then you bring in a team and you realize we all need to score. And the more that they score, then this thing isn't our ceiling isn't limited by my abilities. My ceiling is limited by my abilities to empower others and for Kevin's abilities to empower his team internally on the ops and finance side. So, basically our approach has been you'll love this because Andrew Pragle He's one of the best human beings I've ever met. And I consider him to be a little brother to me. And so Andrew, as we were growing, would mention people and just recommend them to me, be like, man, if we ever had the money, I'm like, well, what do they do? How much can they bring us in? Like, what can we do? I think if there was like a tree at CGS of like the employment tree, Andrew Pragle would have probably 15 branches, 20 branches. We have trusted when you have good people that you trust, you know, have integrity, that have your best interests at heart, and who understand what you're doing as a business. You have to empower them to find more people like them. You know, I think we have used a recruiter one time, and it's when we had to hire a full time engineer because I love Andrew's buddies and I love my beer drinking buddies, but I don't know any engineers. So, you know, we had to finally go outside the Andrew Pragle approach. But, you know, Andrew brought in Moni, who's worked with you, and Moni is awesome, right? And then Moni brought in Zach, who's our VP of sales now. Like, there's this amazing thing. And I think it's our culture. And if I'm going to brag at all, this whole thing, I'm going to brag about our culture. We have the best culture. And it's because, you know, we have this thing. I think it's from that stupid Will Ferrell movie where he's a basketball player. Crap. Anyway, it's a movie. Tropic Thunder. No, Tropic Thunder's the one with Ben Stiller. Anyway, I'll think of it. It was the Tropics was the basketball team that Will Ferrell played for. And in this movie, there's this line, and everybody's fighting on the bus, and Will Ferrell turns around and says, "ELE, everybody love everybody." CGS has adopted ELE and LFG. Like that's the CGS mentality. We love each other and let's F and go.
I
And
love it.
so and I'm not gonna be wrong. I'm not gonna lie either. If I see good people working for other companies and they're not happy, they want to come on board. I will brag and say that I get more inbox messages of people wanting to come on board CGS than I know what to do with. And I'm trying to find ways to bring them on because if you find valuable people, you take them in. And that doesn't mean I'm a poacher in the sense I'm like going after everyone's best employee. But man, keep your employees happy. They won't want to leave, right?
I could not agree more with your culture. I think it's infectious. It's fun. I love working with you guys. Even when we have problems, I love that I have CGS on my team to work through it and guys like Andrew and Michaela. And your whole team we couldn't align more perfectly culturally. Construction's hard. Our business is hard. You
It
need
is hard.
what I consider you guys on paper, you're a vendor, right? Of access, but really I consider you guys partners. I know that I can call Rick, I can call Kevin, I can call Andrew. I have an idea, I have a problem, I need help. That's a partnership.
What you're saying is this isn't just transaction because you know, the reason that we're aligned with the vendors with whom we are is because we share a similar worldview. Like we see, you know, things the same way. I know that you genuinely are trying to bring value to your clients. Period. If you didn't, I wouldn't be working with you. Like that, it's really that simple. And look, since we're talking, and I didn't mean I'm gonna bring this up, you sent a client to me just last night that you thought could use some help, that you're working on a couple of their assets. We looked into it this morning. You're working at a property in Minnesota right now. We're gonna send you like 2,000 free lamps, like because we can. But if you wouldn't have shared that your client was in that market and needed help, we wouldn't have known how to help you. So you going the extra mile for that client, they're going to be super grateful to you for bringing that free value. I'm super grateful for you to bring the opportunity. You're grateful that we're helping you make it look really good. You're made to look really good in front of that client. It's
Absolutely.
it's teamwork, bro. Like if all the good folks stick together, we can get something done. I believe that.
Absolutely. The other thing I wanted to say about your culture, I think if you took your culture, and we'll get into what you guys are selling right after this with energy and all the things. But I'm convinced you could take Rick West and the CGS team, and tomorrow you guys are a paper company or a technology company or you name it, you're a shoe company. I mean, I don't think you can underestimate the value of the culture and the team. It doesn't matter what you're selling or what you're doing.
Agreed.
You could change industries and go do anything. If you bring that team and that culture, you guys will figure it out. That's the magic of CGS and your culture.
We love what we do. We're fun. I mean, I get off calls all the time and I'm cocky as heck about it. I'll be on a call and be like, look, you know, this is the best call you're having this week, right? I'll say that right in the camera because I know it is because I know how boring their other calls are. And we have fun with people and they enjoy it. That's why they take our calls. We have value and we're fun. But you know, we brought a guy on because of Andrew named Kenny Weston. This guy's a freaking ridiculous rock star. Like he's insane. He's the best business development guy I've ever met in my life. In my life. And he comes on board and he one of the first things he says is, "You know what you got, Rick? You got clients." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You have clients that if you have the right offering, they would buy anything from you because they believe in what CGS is and that we're not going to sell people something just to sell it to them, right?" And when he said that, I really did realize I'm like, crap, like we do work with a huge chunk of the industry. And now we're going into senior living and office buildings and other ventures. And I'm like, yeah, we could sell anything to them. And so CGS is weird. Kory, you talked about our evolution. Back then, it was mattresses, a few P-TACs because we didn't even know what a P-TAC was. And then we figured out we could give away some light bulbs for free. Then we figured out we could give away some thermostats for free. And then Katie barred the door because all of a sudden we found that these clients were trusting us. And so we could just keep feeding into them. So what's unique about our business model is we're not the same company any 6 weeks in a row because we'll find something new that has value because we know that we have a clientele that as long as there's value, they're going to listen to us.
Rick, your business, at least the core competency in my mind, is energy consultants and finding rebates and value for clients. What I love about your business is I'd really view it as a win-win. You're not there as a consultant and here's my fees regardless of what I do for you. Even if I find you nothing, your
Right.
value comes and you're getting incentivized or paid when you're bringing value to a property owner. And, I'll let you speak to that, but this is crazy to say, but some of the biggest pushback I get from people's gut reaction when I talk about you is it's too good to be true. So it's too good to be true. And I don't believe it. It sounds like a scam.
Right.
And that is honestly the biggest pushback I get when I tell people about CGS. And I'm sure you get it 100 times more than I do.
Yeah, bro, look, that's it is the stumbling block, right? And where we've been able to get past it is I always joke internally. I'm like, you know what the problem is? No one cares how fast you can swim if they've seen you walk on water, right? And for some groups in the industry, it's like they almost expect us to perform miracles now because they've just seen it. They believe they've drank the Kool-Aid, they've seen the free PTAC, they've seen the free building tune-up, they've seen it. But for the folks who haven't, it is difficult. And everyone's like, well, why doesn't everyone do this? Well, number one, there's a ton of nuance to it. There's 3,300 utilities across the United States in electricity alone, 1,000 in natural gas. Everyone has a different program. Everyone has different rebates. And figuring out what products fit into those, it's tough, man. It's really tough. So the thing that we've got, Kory, that helps us overcome that stumbling block of it's too good to be true is go call Concord. They have a hotel right down the street. They're doing it. Go call ESA. They've already done 10 properties with free P-tax. You should call them. They're doing it. And by the way, you paid into these programs that they did, and they're using your money. You're not using the money that you paid into the utility program. Go spend it. And once someone talks to someone that we've done business with, it's over because it gets them past that. But you nailed it on the head. I remember a guy that we brought on board when he first came on board and he was dealing with some new clients. He says, "I never thought giving stuff away would be this hard." Right? Because a lot of stuff we give away is for free.
I think the other stumbling block, other than it sounds too good to be true, is you are, you described at the beginning of this podcast that you get fired up as long as you care and believe in something. And you are enthusiastic about energy, to say the least. Uh, most people, right? I'm a real estate property owner. I own a hotel or two. You start talking about utilities, rebates, energy, and I'm falling asleep,
Yeah.
and the education I think is also not to be swept under the rug. You and Kevin and your team, you guys simplify something that is so complicated and you guys, are sort of utility rebate hunters. You're working on my behalf as a property owner just to go hunt and find me value. Why wouldn't I want that service? But you start talking about utilities and kilowatts and people's heads, they close off because like, I don't understand it. This is complicated. But it's so nice to have a consultant like you who's going to work on my behalf. You're going to explain it to me. You're not trying to, BS me or sneak anything by me. You're finding me value. No, but you guys simplify a very complicated thing.
No, and we tell people all the time, like, look, could they do it themselves? I'm sure they could to some capacity, but it is complex. I mean, there's a lighting rebate a while back where we were doing a ton of free parking lots. That's literally like redoing parking lots for people with their lighting, no cost, utility paid for. So I call up this one of our best clients, one of the smartest guys I know in the industry, and I'm like, "Hey, bro, look, awesome. We're gonna come out check out your two properties. We're gonna do lighting, free parking lots. You're welcome." Typical request pitch. And he's like, "Man, someone beat you to the punch." And I'm like, and I didn't say the free part. And he's like, I said, "We're gonna come out and be able to do it." He said, "Man, somebody beat you to it." I'm like, "Beat me to it?" They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, that sucks." He says, "Well, I can't blame you." I said, "I can't blame you." He said, "Yeah, look, man, 50% on that job is amazing." I said, "You know what's better than 50%, 100? You went with the wrong damn program." Because you have 3,100, 3,300 utilities and you got 3 or 4 programs in each. And if you don't navigate that correctly, you leave money on the table. And the final thing I'll say is a really smart guy in the industry named Scott Cameron at Concord. He taught me that being able to speak the language of real estate does help in these situations, Corey. Because all of a sudden, when you can look at a hotel owner or a senior living owner or a mall owner and say, "Look, man, we're going to flip your P&L. Like your bills are going to go down $25,000 a year for this, and you're at a 6 cap. I just added value to your valuation of your asset. You know what that does. The minute you speak their language like that, Corey, because trust me, the CFOs are not interested in free light bulbs or free thermostats.
Hmm.
CFOs are interested in adding the valuation of their asset class. And that's what we do. And right now, it's more important than ever because it's brutal out there energy wise. People are getting effing clobbered left and right. But yeah, agreed.
Well, I like to wrap this up with some rapid fire questions that will be a little fun. You could shoot from the hip. But
You
before we
got
get to that, you refer to yourself as
time
triple A.
out. Me? Me shoot from the hip? Are you serious? This has all been scripted.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I know you've had a script for 2 weeks, been preparing for all your
Yeah,
the triple H. You have the hustle, the humor, but let's talk about the heart. I just want to say, Rick, you've been a valuable partner. You've become a great friend. So as many people on your team. Your family, our family business, your family business align so well. But I hope you take some time to realize the impact that you've had on the hospitality industry. But more importantly, the people internally at CGS, and it's sort of a gift. I'm not going to read it to you because I don't want you to cry. But I'll give it to you after I ask some of your employees, colleagues to sort of put some words together about what you've meant to them. And I'll send it over to you, more of a personal thing you can read. But I hope
that's
you
cool.
take some time to reflect on the journey, Rick. I know it's been 10 or 12 years, but it goes fast. You're still out there hustling, but don't forget to enjoy the ride and appreciate the people that, you've brought along with you. You've really left a
Absolutely.
tremendous impact.
I'm ready for the rapid fire. Is this like flashcards?
You
Is this
ready?
like name association? Is this like the Warshak text or whatever they're
All
called?
right. At risk of offending all of your clients, Rick, but I'll phrase this in the context of personal. You and Kristen are going away. Favorite hotel.
Ooh.
Now you're running through the list of if I say this, I'm going to offend this client. If I say,
Man, I got it. I mean, I'm always super honest and I mean there are things I like about everybody. I love a good waffle at certain properties. I love a good coffee shop at others, right? I'm that dude that grew up in Beaver Falls, so I'm just as happy at a Hampton as I am an Omni, but I love them both, right? I love an AC hotel for what it's got to offer. For me, it's more about the friendliness of the hotel. I'm all about how are you treated when you walk into a property, and I'm always super diligent about letting the property management know how it went. Like when they not dogging them when they weren't good, but when they're good, I like reaching out to the folks at Omni and saying, "Hey, man, you got a killer there," or someone over at Concord and saying, "Man, I stayed at the AC. They took care of me. That's a great property." So it's hard to say a hotel, but I want a friendly hotel.
well, you're talking about service, and that's the nature of hospitality and the business, and it's hard to put a price on how someone made you feel.
Absolutely.
What I love about you, Rick, is I could get a text or an email, and I don't need to see who it's from. If I see one word, all caps, in that sentence, I know that that's from request.
Yeah.
And your team has started doing it too, and it cracks me up. I love it.
I explain to people, look, people are freaking busy, man. Like they don't have time for long emails. They don't have time for long texts. More that you can say in less words, the better you will do in sales. And I think just in life, just, you know, LFG, that's your answer. Let's go. I'm with you, Kory. Thank you for appreciating that.
Oh, I
A lot of
love it.
people don't.
I love it. I love it. What do you feel more, Rick? The pain of losing or the joy of winning?
I hate losing more than any human being that walks this planet.
I'm not going to say speaking of losing, but the next question, unrelated. How do you fix the Pittsburgh Steelers?
All right, well, here's the deal. I could talk about this obviously for days. In fact, next year you need to come with us to a game. You need to suck it up and just come to a game with us next year. We have season tickets. I grew up in Beaver Falls, so the Steelers are religion. I get it, and I'd take Aaron Rodgers back for 1 year. You know, they just went out and they just got Michael Pittman as a second receiver to go along with DK. They got two killer tight ends. They're going to help them the offensive line. We need to find somebody in the slot. The running back situation looks good. I like the Dowdle kid they picked up. So yeah, I do study the game a little bit, Kory. I think we're going to be okay.
All right. All right. Good. And last and final question, Rick. It's a hospitality podcast. In the spirit of hospitality, what is the kindest thing that anyone's done for you?
I'm going to it's a tie. You know, I was kind of wandering around for a little bit in between the ozone thing and figuring out what was next. And that's actually when I found Kristen. We're a blended family. And I found Kristen and I found Kevin, almost my business partner, almost simultaneously. And both of them accepted me for who I was, strengths and weaknesses, because one of the things I pride myself on is self awareness. And I know that I'm a law. And they both loved me despite that. And they put kind of guardrails around me, you know, protecting me from the parts of me that were not necessarily the best. And they pointed me in directions where I could succeed and do the very thing that I say that I like to do for others. So I would say the kindest thing that anyone's ever done for me without crying is honestly that. They took me for who I was and loved
Amazing.
me anyway.
It's amazing. Rick, as always, I enjoy every conversation that we have. Thank you so much for sharing your story and agreeing to do this, man.
Now, listen, bro, it's been great. Shameless plug. I do get a shameless plug. Glenn Houseman always gives me a shameless plug at the end. Can I have that? All right, here's the only one. Look, y'all are going to be getting screwed on your bills, period. The PJM area, especially the mid-Atlantic, they're going to be coming in with extra charges on your bills. If you do not reduce consumption, you're going to get jacked. The no energy broker can come in there and just give you a better contract. You really need to come up with a plan, period. And we want to talk to you about that. We want to take advantage of the utility company's money to ironically fight the utility company increases. So that's my shameless plug is I just want to freaking help people. And if you're in that mid-Atlantic, your bills are about to get even worse. Even though I told you 2 years ago it was going to happen, it happened. It's about to happen again. So Kory, anybody that you know in that area, they need to be reaching out, man. It's going to get brutal out there. These freaking these data centers, it's changing the game for everybody, man. But Kory, I appreciate the time. Thanks for almost making me cry. You see how I rebounded out of it with just a little bit of fire. And I appreciate everything you do for us back at you. Like you've been a great partner in trusting our resources and always putting us with clients that you know that we can help. And, you know, we'll always do the same conversely because we appreciate the relationship.
Thank you, Rick.
Cool. Appreciate you. See you, brother.